Hello, we are so back. How do I do this? Get away from that one. Oh, we don't want that one either. This is the one we want. Yeah. And how do I do this? Video capture device. It's my face. Hello. Hello, it's my face. Oh my god. I figured I'm going back to a sad apartment soon, so I might as well make use of good space while I can. I should move this somewhere though, that's not annoying. How about down here? Yeah. That's good. So today, as you've probably guessed by the title, I will be ranking the books that I read in 2024 because it's just not enough for me to talk about books that I read in my normal illustration videos. I need to talk about it more because I'm just that person. And I thought, why not do a tier list, because I read a fair number of books last year. It's the start of this year, so I can kind of look back, see what I read, see what I liked, see what I did not like, and go from there. Probably I'm gonna try to keep things spoiler free, but sometimes if I don't like a book, I will talk about why I didn't like it, and that usually has to do with the ending. So I'll try to say spoiler warning before I do spoilers. Before I start, I want to introduce my little notebook. I've kept track of everything I've read since the beginning of middle school, and I'm a senior in college now in this little book. So if I ever have to reference like, oh, my junior year of college, I read so and so, I can look at this guy. And I highlight the ones that I like. So evidently Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo was a top read of 2023 or 2024. Anyways, let's get into it, I guess. If the audio or anything is bad, please do let me know. I'm not super familiar with streaming and everything, so just yell at me and I'll try to fix it. Okay, so the first book we have is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second in a series. The first one's called Ninth House, and it is basically about the secret societies at Yale. And obviously they do exist in real life, but they're more like unethical magic in this series, and I do really like them. This music is so distracting for me. I need to not listen to it anymore. It's very much an adult book, I'd say. I'd say the themes are very, very mature. Leigh Bardugo used to write more or less YA. Like if you know Six of Crows, that was her. But this book deals with like drug addiction and abuse and like some really heavy topics. So I kind of liked that she sort of aged up her writing a lot. I would put this in A tier. I thought the first one would be a higher A tier. The reason I didn't like it as much as the first one was I thought the ending was sort of maybe a little bit too open, and it's unconfirmed if she's gonna write a third book, so it's like, what? Why'd you end it like that? And also, I think I tend to like the first books in series because it's when things start small and you're just getting introduced to like the world building and the plot. And so I really like that sort of introduction, especially in this one because it tells the story of a girl who just joins one of the secret societies, but she's like not like a rich, posh Yale kid. She's like on a scholarship. She's only gotten in there because of extenuating circumstances that you find out throughout the book. And so she's like, for lack of a better word, she's in a different tax bracket than everyone else. And sort of how she navigates that with all the other rich kids like coming for her because they don't think she belongs in these societies. And she can also see ghosts, which, you know, sounds cool, but actually seems kind of horrible in this world. Like they can harass her, so that's not very fun. That is Hellbent. I'd give it an A. Once I finish ranking all the books, I'm gonna go back through the tiers and rank them in their respective tiers. But next we're on Empress by, I have a Word document up to look at these authors, Karen Miller. Let's see. I really wanted to like this book because when I was reading this book, the thing I did to get to this book, I searched like angry female MC's fantasy book. But I regret to inform you that the main character, Hecate, she was a little too angry for me. I was kind of scared of her. I think there's 2 more books in the series I did not read after this one because of the way it ended, but it just like, it started good. She starts as like a peasant, and then she works her way up to becoming an empress. But the way that she just burns all her bridges along the way really stressed me out. I did not like that part of it. So for that reason, I'll put it in C. I would put it in D because of the ending, which I will not talk about. I just really did not like the way it ended. But the writing style I thought was really solid. I really liked the setting. It was sort of like, I'd say, if we were to choose a region in the real world, somewhere in the Middle East, which I don't often read books with a setting like that, so I kind of liked the desert, and I really did like the religion in it. Like the gods do actually exist, and they're based around scorpions. So I guess if you get stung by a scorpion a lot of times and you survive, God likes you now. So I kind of liked that. I thought that was cool. But yeah, I'd give it a C. Just the ending really got me. It was really a slog to read through. I actually started reading it online, and then I found a copy in a used bookstore, so I was like, oh hell yeah, I'll read this. But it took me forever to get through because Hecate was really, really stressing me out with the choices that she was making. Next, we have The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is vaguely Slavic folklore. Not vaguely, it is Slavic folklore. I think it's specifically Russian. There's a lot of like translation notes from what's her name? Catherine Arden, about sort of the deities and the creatures that are being involved in this. I liked it. I'd put it in B. It was a very basic story of girl lives in the countryside and she can see these Slavic like folklore creatures, and I'm trying to remember what the conflict of the story was. I think there was like the Winter King, but he was good, and there was another guy, like his brother, who was like a god, and he was bad. I liked where it was going. I do have the next one in my my long to be read list, but honestly, it just wasn't that memorable. It was kind of like a nice palate cleanser YA. There's like mild romance in it with the Winter King. But just near the end, I thought the writing was good too. It very well painted. It really painted a good picture of like snowy landscape, countryside, very untouched. So I kind of liked that. Oh boy. Next is Yomotsu-ikusa, which is the first book I ever read in Japanese. It's a horror novel. I wish I could tell you the author, but I have forgotten it, and I don't want to read this kanji. Oh, maybe I can find it. Yomotsu-ikusa. I'm not gonna look for it. Actually, this book, I translated the first couple chapters for a translation class, so that was something that I did. I don't know where to put it. I liked it, but it was my first time reading a full novel in a foreign language, so there were maybe things that I didn't understand so well, and I thought things got really repetitive. Basically, it's set in Hokkaido, which is the most northern island in Japan, and the main character, whose name I have forgotten, I want to say it's like Akane or something, she works at a hospital, and she's noticed that people are starting to go missing, or not missing, but they're coming back and they're like super messed up and weird, and she's like, whoa, this ain't right. And she sort of, I don't know, researches folklore in the area and realizes that there's connections to like the spirit world in this area, and there's a god there who was at war with spiders, or maybe the spiders were also gods. Really, really iffy on this one. I read this one. I'm ranking this in like the order of that I read in 2024, so this is like really early 2024, so I'm trying to remember. The gist of it is that the spiders are really scary. They're gigantic spiders, and they can like crawl all around, and there's maybe not some parasite stuff involved, which is really honestly terrifying to me. So it checked all the boxes for me in sort of fun horror novel, kind of very actiony. It kept things going for me in a language that I'm not really familiar with. Well, familiar enough to read a novel, but nothing slow. I would put it either high A or low B, because I think I'm just like, I liked it because I actually read it, but I'll put it here. We'll see how this, I might move this one later, honestly. Next is Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan. I literally could not tell you a thing about this book. I remember the main character was like the most generic. He's powerful. He's a warrior assassin. He can see the future, maybe? He has like special abilities. And this is the second book in the series. I did not read the third book. The first one is called Blood Song. Thank you. And I remember liking that because it was a very generic like training arc. It starts with him as a child. He's like a scorned child of a noble. He joins a school where he trains to be like a knight assassin, but there's plots happening because he's the son of a noble. And all of that is happening while he's figuring out that he has like premonitions or something. So I liked that one because I think training arcs are fun, and you get to meet like the other people at the school, and there's like a betrayal, things like that. But the second one goes into him going to war, essentially. There's like a corrupt king, and then he decides to go conquer the desert country, which never do that. If you go to the desert, you will lose. And they get messed up. I'm gonna put it in C. I'm gonna put it lower than Empress because the writing style was not even that good. Yeah. Okay, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I'm sure if you read fantasy, you know a lot about this book. This was a reread for me. I first read this book, I don't even know, a couple years ago, 4 years ago maybe? 7 years ago maybe. And I wanted to reread them so that I could finally get to Words of Radiance, which is here, Rhythm of War, which is here. And I hadn't read that one yet, even though I had it, but to read that one, I was like, oh, I'll just reread the whole series, because there's so much that happens in the meantime. And that was an undertaking, because these books are absolutely gigantic. Do I have one on hand? No, I don't think I do. Oh, I do, but it's too hard to grab. I liked it. It follows, I'm gonna say mainly 3 POVs. I'm trying to remember where each book ends, but the main 2 that I can think of are Shallan, who's like an artist and a noble who's trying to get her house out of poverty, and Cal, however you want to say his name, Cal, who is an ex-soldier who starts out as a slave because he's done some things that I'm trying to remember what he did. And it starts with them, mainly Cal, like at the frontier of a war going on with another species, not human. And that war is happening because that species killed the previous king of a land. And this is like continental, so it's kind of just like one country's war, and it escalates over time. I really like the world building. Mainly it revolves around these storms that come every so often. They're called high storms, and everything in the world is kind of adjusted to them, so they always build houses with them sloped, like storm like away from the storm so that things don't get knocked over, and all the plants know to go into the ground when the storm happens, and lots of animals have like evolutions against the storm. And over time, Kaladin, Cal, whatever his name is, and Shallan start developing these powers through these spirits that attach them. Sort of iffy whether the spirits, you only get attached to the spirits because you have trauma, but that's up in the air. But that's cool. I like it. It was good. I think I need to put it in B. But that makes me think that Yomeltsiksa should also be in B because these are not comparable. I'll put it high B to start. I'll put Yomeltsiksa second. I don't know. I think knowing what I know about the other books, it shouldn't be a B. It shouldn't be an A in comparison to the other books. And some people say that Brandon Sanderson has a thing for writing more than he should. And sometimes I do agree with that. So that's why I'm going to put it in B. It could have been a little shorter. Next, Kafka on the Sea. Putting that in D. Another book, the second book I ever read in Japanese, Kafka on the Shore, my bad, by Haruki Murakami. The way that Japanese books are often written, because they're like really, really skinny, is that they're written in thirds. So this is the upper novel and then middle, lower. So technically I only read a third of it, and that was a third too much for me. I couldn't tell you what happened in this book. Like there were two main POVs. One of them was a kid who was running away from his dad, and the other one was an old man who could talk to cats. And eventually they do sort of come together. Maybe if I had read the other 2/3 of the book in the other novels, I would have understood. But I did not like Murakami's writing style. All the women in the book, God, I'm about to get quite critical of Murakami, even though he's very, very famous. So this kid, who's one of the POVs who ran away from home, he had a sister as a child before his parents divorced. And every woman who's near his age he meets, he's like, oh, she could be my sister, but also I think she's kind of hot. And I didn't enjoy reading that. Also, there were just some really unnecessary sections in this book that I was like, why are you even writing this? I'm going to tell you one of them, and you're probably not going to want to hear it. But at one point, this kid is like in a hut in the middle of nowhere, like kind of on a retreat, low-key. And he goes outside in the rain naked, and Murakami describes in great detail the rain dropping on his dick and what it felt like. I was reading this and I was just like, alright, cool, I'm done. So that's why it's going in D tier. I didn't like the plot. I'm just gonna move on. Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I would put this one in A. I thought The Way of Kings was more like a setup to more of the action that happens in Words of Radiance, where people are starting to figure out like why the spirits are attaching to humans and who the big bad antagonist is going to be. There's sort of that setup. So I appreciated that. The Way of Kings was a lot of the setup, but Words of Radiance had more action, more of the plot coming together. It was a good book. It's like a bajillion pages. It's like 1,000 pages long, so I couldn't even begin to talk about the plot at that point. The Library on Mount Char. Who is this by? I don't know if it's in my to-read list. Library on Mount Char. I want to say like something Hawkins. I don't remember the author. This was when I started to read one-off horror novels. Just sort of in between really long fantasy books, because sometimes I need to take a break, and this was one of those times. The book is basically about this like god emperor of the universe who has 12 kids who he's adopted kids, and they all live in this gigantic library, and each one of them learns a specific part of the library. So I'm gonna turn this music down, it's kind of loud. So our main character is learning the languages part of the library. Her like rival sibling who sucks, but you understand why he sucks if you read the book. David, is it David? I don't know. The one who sucks is reading the war part of the library. One person is reading like the animals, one person is reading medicine, things like that. And they can do a lot of crazy stuff. Like one of them can like talk to wolves and stuff, one of them can revive the dead, but obviously having that knowledge as a human being really messes you up, so it sort of explores what having too much knowledge will do to you. And the book, the story starts when the siblings realize that their father has gone missing, and they're kind of trying to figure out if he's dead or if he's alive, or if someone like kidnapped him, how they could have kidnapped him, because he's like a god emperor of the universe. And yeah, that's how the book starts. I wanted to like it, but I didn't like it very much. I thought the pacing was weird. Honestly, I thought the whole book was weird, but I think I would have liked that if the pacing was better. And I didn't really like the ending. People on Reddit, where I got this recommendation, really hyped it up as like, so many twists and turns, so fun. I read the end of it, I read the twist, and I was like, okay, cool, let's move on. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. What was I gonna say? I think maybe I would have liked it better if I had read it slower, but I didn't. I read it in like a day. So maybe that kind of messed with my pacing, but either way, it wasn't something that I really felt that I needed to dwell on after I read it, so yeah. Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. This is where I enter my Malazan era, book 1 of 10 million, 12 I think, 10, I don't know. I'm gonna put this in A. I'm gonna put this top of A. I'd put it in S if I didn't know that the other books are better, in my opinion. So that's why it's going in A. This is one of those books that just kind of throws you in. You have no idea what's happening to begin with. You just kind of have to deal with all these place names and gods and deities, and you're just like, cool. I don't know what that means. I guess I'll just put it together. But there's a glossary, and there's a character index, so it's like, you figure it out over time. And I really do like books like that, because to me it's more like a puzzle that I get to figure out as I go. And I feel like I'm more in the story with books like that, because you just don't know what's happening. So I know that's not for a lot of people, but that's something I really like. This book initially follows Paran, I'm gonna say Paran, who was originally a noble part of the Malazan Empire, and he's being stationed in another continent to go to war, essentially. He's supposed to be like a captain of a brigade there, I think, but he just essentially gets thrown into this war that's been happening for years and years, and he's trying to piece together how the dynamics in his army work, and there's, maybe some other plots going on. Some gods are getting in the mix, like the god of fortune has kind of like picked him as being a really important catalyst to put other events into place. I'd say narratively, this book does not have a lot of bearing on the rest of the plot, but maybe I only say that because I haven't read it in a while, and if I reread it, I would make all these new connections. And that's another reason I really like the book. I like being able to reread things and find make new discoveries, essentially. But I kept thinking about it even as I finished it, like months and months after, just trying to like put together pieces of the puzzle, like, why is that character relevant? What is this race? And why have they been extinct for a million years? Things like that. Next, I have 2 manga on here because I had to read the whole series, both series, to write my senior thesis, and I just felt like I should put them on here. The first one is Nana by Ayazawa, I think. I don't even know how to I'm just gonna make a new tier. How do I do that? Make a new tier. There's a presentation mode? Bro, really? Go back. Go back. No! Okay, this is fine. I'll just make a presentation mode and then put all my images back up. Is it? No, it's not. Let me zoom out on my canvas so y'all can see. Window capture. Zoom. Yeah, like that. Okay. Now you can see that, and you can see my 3 hours of lo-fi. Get rid of that. How do I do this? This is hard. Okay, and then let me just input all these images again. Luckily, I had them... No, not you. I had them in order somewhere. Daughters War and 2024. Book tier list. Okay, let me do the ones that I just did. A. I'm just gonna reference this somewhere else. Hold up. Hellbent. I had them in order chronologically, and then I lost them, so that's cool. Way of Kings was a B. Yamotsuiksa was a B. C. Empress. Kafka, D. Tower. Okay, I don't think Tower Lord should be D as well. Slightly better D. What else? Baron the Nightingale, B. Is that everything? Library at Mount Char. Where did I put this one? I'm gonna put it in C. I think that's as far as I got. Oh no, Words of Radiance. Was that A? That was A. Okay. Now I want to make a tier for how do I do this? Make a tier. Add a row below. This is my manga tier. Pink. Oh, that's confusing. Okay. Stop. Enter. Go away. Can you close? Thank you. This one I want to be manga. I'm just gonna make a manga tier because I can't really rate them. It's just not similar enough to rate. Enter. Go away, please. Thank you. So yeah, Nana was one of them. Where did it go? Nana. That's one of the manga I read for this time. It was a sad read. It was a very sad read. I wrote my senior thesis on neoliberalism and womanhood in modern Japan through the lens of manga. So yeah, it was kind of like the struggles of young people in the early 2000s. And sort of like the economic and social context that would make someone like Ayazawa write a manga like this that has characters like this. And the characters are in a band together. There's two girls named Nana, and they live together. And they have a complicated relationship, and so do all of the other characters. And it's unfinished, this manga, even though I think the last volume came out, like 2013, 2011, like a bit ago. And it ends on a cliffhanger that's very tragic, so that was sad. And to compare that was Skippin' Loafer, which is a really happy manga about two high schoolers in more or less the current age and like their experience versus the Nana people's experience. And they're kind of more carefree. It's like they're kind of realizing that they should prioritize their happiness over what society wants them to do, whereas in Nana, they're like, even if I want to become a really proficient band player, prolific band, I'm gonna have to, or singer or artist, I'm gonna have to cast off on my friends in doing so. And in the end, two of them are women. They're like, well, maybe I should just be a wife and a mother instead. So that was kind of the contrast when I was reading these two mangas, like what I wrote my thesis on. But they, if you're just enjoying manga and you like romance for Skippin' Loafer or tragedy for Nana, good, they're great. Read them. I'm gonna look through this list to see what order I have because I lost my order. Okay, next on my list is So Many Cold War books, 300 pages, because I had to read a lot on the Cold War last year. But no, next is Oathbringer, just this one. I am gonna put this in B. I might put it at low B because I liked how it ended. I liked how things came together, but man, this book was a slog. I thought it was altogether way too long. It was just kind of like exposition, planning up to plans for like 800 pages, and then the plans actually happened at the last 500, and sometimes we don't need that. We just get to it, please. So, yeah. The endings were like really good. I liked how things came together. I was all goosed up reading like it's like every plot, like loose end is finally connecting. So that was cool. And that actually got me primed to read Rhythm of War, which is not next. What's next? Ooh, next is Pale Lights, Lost Things. I'm gonna put this solid A tier. Actually, I'm gonna look up the website real quick. Pale Lights, Lost Things. So y'all can see. DuckDuckGo. So this is actually a web novel. I hope this is the correct link. Nope, it's just a Wikipedia. Cool, that's cool. Pale Lights, here we go. Is this still in presentation mode? Thank God. Okay, so this is a web novel actually by EE. I call them EE, but they have a different name. It's like Erratic Errata, I think, or something like that. But you can read it for free, which is why I'm gonna sell it to you really hard right now, because I think it's a great web novel. This person also wrote The Practical Guide to Evil, which is really, really popular. They wrote it first, and then this is the series they're working on now. There's currently 2 books out. I'm reading the second one right now. And it takes place in sort of this like eldritch cave world where the ceilings of the cave are so high that it actually looks like sky to them. And there are parts of it that are in shadow that if you stay there too long, you become hollow, I think is the correct term. That's like a Dark Souls term though, so I don't know. But yeah, you become hollow and you kind of lose your mind. But there's a bunch of continents, and all these continents have like impartial police force called the Black Cloaks. I don't remember if that's really what they're called, but that's kind of what they're called. And the first book follows a number of characters who are going through the trials instead of going to like school and like working your way up the ranks of the Black Cloaks. They're going through these trials to immediately get inducted, and all of them have personal reasons. Mostly people are after them and they're gonna die, and if they join the ranks then they'll get political immunity, more or less. But some of them have these things called contracts where they have agreements with gods or deities that grant them special powers. But if you use the power too much, you become a saint, and you become like this eldritch monster, and you get killed, and you kill a lot of people. So I liked the first book because it was very fun, sort of teams of people go complete trials together. And there's lots of drama because the people don't know each other that well. There's lots of intrigue and secrets. Yeah, I liked it. And the next one starts with them in school, in officer training school, and you go into different groups. So there's like the Alcalare, who are people, or navigators, who are people who can use the gloam, which is like the shadow of the world, it's like a magic basically, but not a god magic. And then there's the masks, or the Kryptia, who are like the assassins, and then there's people who lead. Yeah, and yeah, there's more than that, but good book, would recommend. So that's Pale Lights, Lost Things. I'd put it there. I'd put it higher, but the writing style of Gardens of the Moon is very strong. So I don't think. What's next? Rhythm of War. I'm gonna put this in B as well. I'm gonna put it lower than Oathbringer. Although it was new content for me and I'd already read these 3 in the past, there was just so much not happening but being written anyways. Mainly it's like the Rhythm of War is they're figuring out that the frequencies of light and shadow essentially can come together and create the rhythm of war, I think, is how that went. I don't remember, it was last summer. And it was just more of the same. I'm honestly thinking maybe I should put it in C for that matter, but then I think The Bear and the Nightingale should go down. I wouldn't put it that high. I'm moving things around. Okay. yeah, it's just very meh. I read it and I heaved a great sigh of relief knowing that Wind and Truth hadn't come out yet, so I had another couple months before I was reading that. And I haven't read it yet, so who knows if I'll ever get to it. What's next? Shuna's Journey. I'm gonna put this in manga, even though it's actually like a short story. I think it's sort of set in the Nausicaa world, if you know Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which is a Ghibli movie. It's definitely that style, but it's just this guy, Shuna, going on a journey to look for a seed that he can plant in his village to save his village. And along the way, he sort of sees how bad the world actually is. There's like slavery and war and all that. So, yeah. Very short read. I think I read it in like, an hour or two. The art is nice. I like the art. Black Tongue Thief. Oh, my first S of the day. This book I just sort of picked up because I was about to go on a trip and I wanted a book to read. And I didn't really think much of it, but oh my god. This was such an enjoyable read. It was a very short heist book, more or less. And the main character, it's told from just one guy's perspective, more or less. And his POV, like, the writing style is absolutely hilarious. Like, I can't even explain it. It's just funny. I just really like the writing style. He's very, like, self-deprecating, but in a funny way. And he kind of knows that, like, he's definitely in over his head because he's traversing a war-torn land to get to his heist destination. And he's traveling with a really badass woman who, like, has a crow that lives in a tattoo on her chest, and it can come out and, like, eat people, and that's cool. And she's been to war and he hasn't. And the war is so, like, one of the scariest things that I've, like, ever read. It's like a goblin war, and the goblins, like, usually if goblins are enemies in a book, I don't really think much of it, but the way the goblins are depicted in this book is absolutely terrifying, so I enjoyed it. Next, Between Two Fires. So this is by Christopher Buehlman. This is also by Christopher Buehlman, but it's an entirely different read. Just gonna put it back down before I rank it. I need water. This one is like a medieval horror novel. It was my horror novel between big fantasy books pick, and I'm really trying to remember where they were. They're in like medieval or Middle Ages France, I think. And it's this man who's like an ex-soldier. He's kind of washed up, and he's traversing the lands with a girl who may or may not see angels and be like a saint. Scary book. I'm gonna put it high A because the way that they depict like the devils and angels, I think it's like Christian iconography, so there's devils and angels and stuff that actually exist in the world. Really freaky. The only reason I couldn't really get into it is because I was reading it at a time that I was like super, super busy. So I think I would have liked it more if I had been able to actually sit down and read it, but I was reading it on my like way to and from school on the train, and sometimes I was like, it's so hot, it's September, I'm dying, so I couldn't really focus on it. What's next? Where He Can't Find You by Darcy Coates. This was like the first... No, this was like another horror novel I read. I was trying to read a lot more horror novels this year, or last year. I did not like this one. I put it top of D. I didn't think it was scary. It was set in a small town, and people are turning up dead, and they're like stitched together by the Stitcher. And people don't know if the Stitcher is a man or like a creature. Also, there may or may not be mines and caving systems involved, so I think I should have liked it. In a perfect world, I would have liked it, but I don't think the depictions were descriptive enough for me to really enjoy the like Stitcher as a creepy monster, and I don't think the mine parts of it were long enough, because I think caving is actually really terrifying, but just didn't like that much. I don't know. What's next? I lost my spot in my little notebook. Please. Wish. This, I'm gonna make an F tier just for this. This was the worst book I think I've read in a really long time. At a Row Below. Blue? No. Stop that. F tier. Oh, don't do that. F tier. And I want to make it blue. Yeah, this book sucked. It was free. I think it was self-published. I read the book in one sitting, and I finished the book, and I just laughed hysterically because the pacing was awful. I couldn't really tell you if there was like a conflict. I'm fairly certain it was set at like a school for like vampires and werewolves and blah blah blah, because sometimes I like to read bad YA books and I know it. But this one was especially bad. I was expecting some sort of plot. And I honestly can't remember what the plot was. I just remember it sucked and I moved on from it and it was bad. Anyways, next one. Silverborn. This is this one. I don't remember what happened in this book, to be honest, because it's book. Let's look at it's book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.